In the heart of ancient Greece, Oedipus was honored at a lavish banquet, laughter and music filling the grand hall. He basked in the warmth of admiration, unaware that fate was about to cast its shadow. Suddenly, the oracle appeared. Her presence silenced the revelry. All eyes turned as her gaze pierced through the crowd, and the air grew heavy with dread. With a voice that echoed through the hall, the oracle delivered a prophecy so chilling it froze Oedipus in place. He would kill his father and marry his mother. The joyous celebration crumbled into silence. Oedipus felt the world shift beneath him, the weight of destiny pressing down, and the shadow of a terrible fate falling over all. The prophecy haunted Oedipus, an inescapable shadow clinging to his every thought. It echoed in his mind like a relentless curse, a constant reminder of the terrible fate that awaited him. That night, sleep offered no solace, only visions of what was to come. He quietly packed his meager belongings, his hands trembling not just with fear, but with a profound sorrow for the life he was being forced to abandon. Each item he placed in the bag was a piece of his past, a memory he was desperately trying to protect. Before the first light of dawn painted the sky, he embraced his parents for the last time. He held them tightly, clinging to their warmth and love as if it were a lifeline. His heart was breaking with every second, each beat a painful reminder of the bond he was severing. He knew this farewell might be forever, a sacrifice he was willing to make to spare them from the horrors the prophecy foretold. He whispered silent promises of protection, hoping his actions would speak louder than his words ever could. With tears streaming down his face, Oedipus stepped into the inky blackness of the night, leaving behind the only home he had ever known. The familiar scent of the garden, the comforting glow of the hearth, all faded into the distance with each agonizing step. Each footfall was heavy with regret, a constant reminder of the life he was leaving behind. Yet, beneath the sorrow, a steely resolve hardened his gaze. He believed with every fiber of his being that this painful departure was the only way to protect those he loved from the clutches of fate. Oedipus wandered alone on dusty roads, the world around him stretching out, vast and uncertain, like the future that lay before him. The landscape changed with each passing day, from fertile fields to barren mountains, from bustling crossroads to desolate plains. Yet through it all, his sorrow remained a constant companion, etched onto his face, a testament to the sacrifice he had made. But so did his determination, a burning ember of hope that refused to be extinguished by the winds of despair. Hope and fear waged a relentless war within him, tearing at his soul. He desperately dreamed that distance could somehow alter his predetermined fate, that self-imposed exile could outsmart the cruel whims of the gods. But every mile traveled brought a new ache to his weary body, and every crossroads he encountered served as a stark reminder of the prophecy he was so desperately trying to escape. The weight of his destiny pressed down on him, threatening to crush his spirit, yet he pressed on, fueled by a flicker of defiance. Oedipus cast one last, lingering look back at the life he had left behind, his face a canvas painted with the colors of sorrow, regret, and unwavering determination. Then, with a deep breath and a renewed sense of purpose, he pressed on, unaware that the very road he had chosen, the path he believed would lead him to safety, would instead lead him straight into the inescapable waiting arms of destiny. At a lonely crossroads, shrouded in mist, Oedipus's path collided with fate. A proud stranger in a chariot, flanked by servants, blocked his way. Words were exchanged, sharp, prideful, and unyielding. Horses reared, tempers flared, and the air crackled with danger. In a flash, swords were drawn. The fight was brief but brutal. Oedipus, driven by rage and fear, struck down the stranger and his men. Blood stained the road. Silence fell. Oedipus stood over the fallen stranger, his breath ragged, his hands trembling. He was shaken, unaware that he had just killed his own father, fulfilling the first part of the terrible prophecy. Only one servant escaped, vanishing into the shadows, a silent witness to the tragedy. The wheels of fate turned, and Oedipus, oblivious to the truth, continued his journey toward Thebes. The city of Thebes awaited, held captive by the monstrous Sphinx, as destiny drew Oedipus ever closer to his doom. Oedipus arrived at the gates of Thebes, where the city was held captive by the monstrous Sphinx. Her riddle had claimed many lives, and hope was fading. With courage and wit, Oedipus confronted the Sphinx and solved her deadly riddle. The beast was defeated, and the people erupted in joyous celebration. In gratitude, the citizens crowned Oedipus their king. He was given the hand of Queen Jocasta in marriage, and a royal wedding filled the city with hope. Thebes rejoiced, its streets alive with music and laughter. Yet beneath the surface, shadows lingered, ominous clouds gathered, and some faces betrayed a quiet worry. From afar, the oracle watched in silence, her gaze heavy with secrets yet to be revealed. Oedipus and Jocasta sat upon their throne, basking in the glory of their reign, unaware that fate's shadow still loomed over them. Years relentlessly marched on, and a terrible plague, unseen and merciless, swept through the ancient city of Thebes. It cast a long, dark shadow over every home, infecting not just bodies, but also the hearts and spirits of its people. The air itself seemed thick with despair. Desperate to alleviate the suffering of his people, Oedipus, the king of Thebes, walked among them. He witnessed firsthand their gaunt faces, etched with fear and the ravages of illness. Each cough, each whimper, was a dagger to his heart, a constant reminder of his powerlessness against this invisible enemy. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Oedipus sent Creon, his brother-in-law, on a perilous journey to the oracle at Delphi. He hoped that in the sacred darkness of the temple, some divine guidance could be found, some clue to end the city's torment. The oracle's words, when they finally returned, were heavy and ominous, laden with a terrible truth. The plague, the priestess revealed, would only end when the murderer of King Laius, the previous ruler of Thebes, was found and brought to justice, properly punished for his heinous crime. Standing before his afflicted people, Oedipus, fueled by a sense of duty and a growing unease, vowed to find the killer of Laius. His voice, amplified by the weight of responsibility, echoed with both determination and a chilling dread, a premonition of the darkness that lay ahead. He then summoned Tiresias, the revered blind prophet, a man known for his unsettling accuracy and his ability to see beyond the veil. Oedipus, growing impatient with the prophet's cryptic pronouncements, demanded the unvarnished truth, no matter how painful it might be. Tiresias, initially resistant to reveal the horrifying truth, finally succumbed to Oedipus's relentless anger and unveiled the shocking revelation. You, Oedipus, are the cause of this suffering. You are the pollution that plagues Thebes. The prophet's words struck Oedipus with the force of a physical blow, leaving him reeling. Paranoia and a chilling dread began to twist within him, poisoning his thoughts. Fragmented memories flashed through his mind. A fateful crossroads, a violent encounter, a long-forgotten prophecy. Jocasta, his wife and queen, witnessing his growing distress, tried desperately to soothe him, dismissing the prophecies as mere lies and old wives' tales. But the truth, like a relentless tide, continued to press in, eroding the foundations of their world. Piece by agonizing piece, the horrifying truth of the past returned to haunt him. He saw visions of an abandoned baby left to die on a mountainside, the brutal murder of a king at a crossroads, and the ominous shadow of a prophecy hanging over his life. The full horror of his situation finally dawned upon him, a crushing weight of realization. Oedipus understood with sickening clarity that he himself was the source of Thebes' agony, the very pollution the oracle had spoken of. The prophecy, once a distant threat, was now irrevocably fulfilled. The crushing weight of fate, the inescapable grip of destiny, finally crushed him. The city's suffering, the plague that ravaged Thebes, had become inextricably linked to his own tragic existence, a burden he was now forced to bear alone. The truth struck with the force of a physical blow, a blade of realization piercing through the carefully constructed lies of Oedipus's life. He understood with chilling clarity that he had unknowingly fulfilled the prophecy, killing his own father and committing the ultimate taboo by marrying his mother. Jocasta, her world collapsing around her in a vortex of horror and disbelief, fled to the sanctuary of her chambers, desperate to escape the unbearable weight of this revelation. Alone in her private chambers, Jocasta succumbed to the crushing weight of her fate. Unable to bear the monstrous truth, she chose a final, desperate act. She took her own life, her anguished cries echoing through the cold stone halls of the palace, a testament to her unbearable despair, as she hanged herself in the suffocating darkness. Oedipus, driven by a desperate need to confront Jocasta, burst into her chambers, only to be met with the horrifying sight of her lifeless body. The scene was a brutal tableau of despair. He collapsed beside her, consumed by a grief so profound it defied articulation, sobbing uncontrollably as tears mingled with the blood that stained his hands and face. Lost in a frenzy of grief and self-loathing, Oedipus sought a punishment that could match the magnitude of his crimes. He seized Jocasta's brooches, their sharp points glinting in the dim light, and with a horrifying act of self-mutilation, he plunged them deep into his own eyes. He blinded himself, extinguishing the light that had led him to such darkness, as blood poured down his face, a crimson mask of agony. He cursed his eyes for what they had seen, for the knowledge they had brought him. Oedipus screamed at the heavens, railing against the gods and the cruel hand of fate that had orchestrated his downfall. A shattered mirror reflected his ruined face, a grotesque image of a man destroyed by destiny. The palace, once a symbol of order and prosperity, erupted in chaos. Servants and citizens alike recoiled in horror at the ghastly sight of their king, now a blinded, bloodied figure of tragedy. The news spread like wildfire, casting a pall of dread over the entire kingdom. Oedipus, stripped of his sight and his crown, stumbled blindly from the palace, a broken man. He was no longer a king, but a living testament to the destructive power of fate, a symbol of unspeakable suffering and the tragic consequences of defying destiny. Begging for exile as the only way to atone, he wandered the desolate earth as a blind outcast, guided only by a staff and the echoes of his past. His journey had come full circle, from a desperate attempt to flee the prophecy to the agonizing reality of living its inescapable curse, his life now shrouded in perpetual darkness. Blinded and broken, Oedipus left Thebes behind. Staff in hand, he stepped into exile, guided only by a loyal companion and the memory of all he had lost. The road stretched before him, empty and unforgiving. The world felt vast, silent, and indifferent to his pain. Each step was heavy with sorrow. Oedipus was no longer a king but a shadow, lost, suffering, and alone. The city faded behind him, swallowed by distance and dusk. Ahead, only the unknown awaited. Oedipus disappeared into the gathering darkness, his suffering a warning to all who would challenge fate.